Okay, so I noticed that there's a big gap between the younger generation, college students, and young generation, and the people with my age. Let's say we see that in many Chinese Christians, their next generation had a very different uh, viewpoints or philosophies. And you told me once that you said either one of your friends says, we lost our younger generation, the many parents. And one of the issue I noticed is the younger generation was saying Republicans, only care about the rich people, and Democrats really cares about, the poor people. And that's one of the central debate.
Sure. Okay. First of all, on that particular issue, the claim that the Republican Party does not care about the poor. Okay, so that's the claim. And what you're going to find is, first of all, that the young people and many people our age, Jane, they don't know the history. They don't know what has been tried. They don't know what has been accomplished. They don't understand what has been what has failed. So those individuals, many of the younger individuals, that when they make the statement that the Republican Party does not care about the poor, that not only that age group, but also people that are of our age group, they have been taught that to identify whether the poor are being helped or not is the growth of a government program. So when the Democrats, when they're spending money to assist the poor, the more people that are poor and the more money that's spent, they see that as a success. The Republican Party, on the other hand, they want to see temporary relief for the poor as the poor are prepared to come into the economic community, whether as a business owner, whether as a laborer or a service provider, and that the Republicans, they measure success in eliminating poverty, not by how much money is spent on the poor, but by how many poor people no longer need the government support. And so when we look at the history, that there's been no president in the history of the United States that has the numbers of minority people, Hispanic, Black women, that women had the highest unemployment, or I'm sorry, the lowest unemployment rate and the highest employment rate. The Black community had the lowest unemployment rate. That same thing with the Hispanic community. There were more women that were able to start businesses than ever before in the history of the country. There were more women, Blacks and Hispanics that were able to start businesses and find employment and be able to walk away from government support. So when people are walking away from government support and they no longer need it because they're participating in the economy, that the need for spending on the poor goes down. Well, Republicans see the need for support as a success. The Democrats, on the other hand, they want to see more government employees working, handing out support to the poor. So if there's, from a Democrat perspective, if you're spending less to eliminate poverty, then that's a failure. Well, the Republicans, on the other hand, they say no, that success is measured by the number of people who no longer need the government's assistance. And the only person in the history of the country, going all the way back to the very beginning of the country, that was most successful in assisting Blacks, Hispanics, women, other minorities was Donald Trump. And so the people who thought that they could solve the poverty problem using socialist or communist policies, they failed. And they don't want to admit that they failed. And Donald Trump and his policies are a testimony to the freedom that people can enter into the ownership space for employment, and also ownership space for businesses. They are jealous of that success, and they don't want to see their power diminished because of the success of people coming from poverty. So the younger people, and even people my age, they don't understand that. And some of the young people will come around. Many of the people our age, particularly in the Black community, what we're seeing in this election cycle, that Black males that became successful under Donald Trump, they see that if he loses this election, that they're going to lose their businesses, they're going to lose their jobs. And so many Black males are beginning to swing toward Donald Trump and swing out of the Democrat Party into the Republican Party. But I want to say this, that do not trust one politician or one party, that you need to judge every election cycle and every party and every politician on their merits in each election cycle.
So thank you for that. So after each election, because I have been in the States for 30 years, and I watched after every election, the president, whoever elected, say, let's come back together, let's come as American, let's do the healing. But it looks like the nation's getting further and further divided.
Absolutely. Okay, the divergent point is it comes back to the single point. There's one group that says God exists. There's another group that says God does not exist. And the American founder said that God exists, and he gave the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and they are pursuing that. And the other group that says God does not exist, that they are moving off in another direction, and that those two are irreconcilable. If they're working together, then the American people are in trouble, because it will be those that have accepted the naturalistic worldview, the materialistic worldview, the Marxist worldview, the Leninist, the Maoist, the Kims that are in North Korea, that every country that has accepted the idea, the starting point, that God does not exist, and they're building a society in that direction, that the group that says that God does exist, they are not going to waver, and neither is the other group. And so the battle is a battle of ideas, and it spills into the political, it spills into the economic, it spills into the corporation, it spills into families. Families are in conflict over this. And the saddest part are those people, and I know many of them, that they confess that Jesus is Lord, but they have been deceived thinking that the political party and the political operatives that say that God does not exist, that somehow or another, that working with those people, there will be a utopia that will come about. We will have zero unemployment. Everybody will go to college. Nobody will be hungry. Everybody will have a cell phone. Racism is going to vanish, so that they need to attach their star to the political party that says that let's just all be friends and be equal and share everything. History is opposed to that, because in every single case, and Jane, when you're talking to people and people, say, well, socialism, we need to try it. It's the path forward. Ask them, give me one example where it's been successful. And here's what's interesting, that when you take a look at the expansion of science, technology, and market in China, where did it come from? It came from the universities and the laboratories and the economic system of the United States that it was borrowed, it was fostered, it was given. And in some cases, as both you and I know, is that the intellectual property theft, okay, that has happened, not just China, but other countries that have stolen from America, that it was the free society that was the golden goose. It was the goose that laid the golden egg, and other nations were able to benefit. Let me give you an example. Some of our allies in Europe, love the allies, that will have Americans that'll say, well, we need healthcare like Great Britain or Sweden or Germany, or look at the railroads, look at all they have. Why don't we have some of those things? Well, here's the truth, is since World War II, the United States has been paying for the defense of all those nations. If England, if Great Britain and Germany and France and Sweden, if they had to spend money out of their economy to defend themselves during the Soviet era, and even now, they would not have money for all of those high-speed trains, all the free health care. That as long as defense has been paid for by the people and the working, open, free market of America, that there's all kind of socialist successes, quote unquote, that could take place among our allies. If you pull away the defense and they actually had to protect themselves without American support, all those free things that they were giving away, there would be nothing free to give away. And so now at this election, as China is influencing America more, China is influencing the Chinese Communist government. Let me clarify that. The Chinese Communist government, is moving out into the world in a new era of colonization, okay? There's been a book that the title of it is Africa, China's Second Continent, because the investments and the extraction of natural resources from Africa to China, from Middle East to China, and I'm not saying that there should not be open and free exchange, but what happens is that the Chinese economy is growing at the expense of some other economies. And that if the free society that gave birth to it all, if that collapses, that the dialectic that is a part of every communist system is insufficient to create the intelligence and the creativity for the global expansion and the technological expansion, because most of that technological expansion came out of the West and is in China, and it should be shared with China. I'm not saying that, but let me give you one example. During the Clinton administration provided information about nuclear warheads to the Chinese Communist Party. It would have taken the Chinese Communist Party 25 to 30 years to get to research to come to the place where America was. And so the technological gap of 25 years came down to zero. And so the speed, and so the the communist system could have never generated all of that science and technology and intelligence on its own. That was subsidized. And so the source of the subsidy is on the precipice of coming to an end in a Biden administration. And so because if the United States cannot defend itself, if the United States cannot defend, it definitely can't defend its allies. And so we're looking at a new world order, and the new world order, people will say it will be led by China, and the correction is it would be led by the Chinese Communist Party. That's the truth of the matter. So to ignore the freedom that God has given to individuals to engage in economics and science and exploration, that if that is squelched under a communist system, regardless of the nationality that it comes from, that is devastating to the world. And Joe Biden would just speed that up, as opposed to waiting for the collapse of the Communist Party in China, so the people can have the same intellectual freedom that the people of the United States have. When they have that freedom, then there will be an explosion of creativity among the Chinese people that the Communist Party won't be there to put a lid on it. And so it doesn't matter whether communism is there, Russia, it doesn't matter. The outcome in the end game is always the same. It's the suppression of the people. It creates poverty. And when that happens, it always takes a free market to provide the subsidies for simple, basic things like food and energy.
So you have been experienced in covering 16 states, grassroots, training and elections. What's your kind of projections to election 2020?